So this is probably the most depressing thing you're gonna hear on this channel. Probably the most depressing thing I've ever said on this channel. You're gonna die. I know, that's probably not the nicest thing I could say, but the truth is, you're gonna die, I'm gonna die, we're all gonna die.
We're gonna die!
And I've come to grips with this. I know at some point in time in my life, like my life is gonna end and I'm going to pass away. And that's okay. And that's why it's important though, that I have life insurance. Life insurance to protect my family. So if I'm not here to take care of them, to provide income for them, that they're going to be okay. And that's why I have $2.5 million of life insurance. That's correct. $2.5 million of life insurance. Now for some, that seems like a whole lot of life insurance for one person. But there are some other people, some Twitter trolls that would disagree and say that I don't have enough life insurance. Either way, we're gonna find out today why I have $2.5 million of life insurance. We're gonna find out how much I'm paying, how much it's gonna cost you if you think you need life insurance, and why I chose term life over whole life. We're gonna find out all that and more right now. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the channel Wealth Hacker Labs. And for those that are new here, you might not know that I was a financial planner for 16 years. And working with clients, talking about financial planning, one of the things that we always talked about was life insurance, making sure that they had enough life insurance coverage. Now, one of the blessings of being a financial planner is that you get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when you see the bad and the ugly, you can make those changes in your own life and also try to help others, prevent them from making those same bad and ugly choices. I've seen the good where they had purchased enough life insurance to cover them. And I also saw the good where if they lost a loved one unexpectedly, they had enough life insurance to take care of them. And I know that doesn't sound good, but the reality is that the ones that were left over, the family members left over, like that was good. Because it was enough to deal with losing a loved one, a spouse, but then having to deal with the financial hurdles that come after that. Like that is not good, and it oftentimes is ugly. But I've also seen the bad and the ugly where people didn't have enough life insurance, or even worse, they lost a loved one that had either not enough life insurance coverage or they didn't have any life insurance at all. And I'm telling you, like, it's one of the most devastating things that you can see. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I have $2.5 million of life insurance coverage on myself. Now, is that what I started with when I first bought life insurance? Not even close. I don't think I ever thought in my 20s that I would ever have more than $1 million or especially $2 million of life insurance. My life insurance journey began when I was 26, 27 years old. And it wasn't just because of the fact I just got married that I bought life insurance. It was because I got married and I was being deployed to Iraq. I was in the Army National Guard and our unit got mobilized. So I was going to serve my country, spending at least a year overseas in a combat zone. So if you are in the military, you have the option of purchasing what's called SGLI insurance. And that stands for Servicemen Group Life Insurance. So with that, the max that you can buy is $400,000. And as you can imagine, every soldier that was being deployed, I'm pretty sure it was at least, I hope 98% or even better 100%, but every single soldier that I deployed with purchased this life insurance, even if they weren't married. Because if they didn't have a spouse, maybe it was giving it to their brother, their sister, or their parents, because, you know, we're going to a combat zone and not so good things can happen when you're in a combat zone. So that was the first insurance policy that I bought. It was $400,000 of coverage, and I don't remember exactly how much I was paying. Came out of my paycheck, so I didn't really think much about it. So after returning home, I had 9 months left on my National Guard, my military contract, my military term. So knowing that, I knew that I needed to get another life insurance policy. Now, for whatever reason, I decided that I didn't need $400,000, so I took out a 30-year term policy. So a 30-year term policy, I don't remember exactly how much it was. I'm pretty sure it was around $200 a year what I was paying. So $250,000 of coverage, that would take care of our mortgage payment at the time. I think our first house cost us about $109,000. We didn't have any other debt. So it seemed like that was enough life insurance. And I felt like that until we had our first son, our first child. So that was one of those adulting moments where you realize, man, I'm getting ready to have my first kid. You know, you start freaking out a little bit. I'm gonna be a dad. And I definitely felt that the $250,000 of term life insurance I had wasn't nearly enough. So at that point in time, I decided to take out another 30-year term policy, but this time it was for $500,000, so $500,000. So I had the original $250,000 term policy, then took out another $500,000 term policy, both 30-year, and I had total coverage then of $750,000. And for quite some time, I felt like that was enough life insurance. Like, we lived in Southern Illinois, cost of living wasn't all that high. At the time, my wife was still working, but it wasn't until we had our second son that's when I really started feeling, man, do I really have enough life insurance? And I think at that point in time, we also talked about that we were going to have a third child. We didn't know about adopting. We didn't even talk about adopting at that point in time. So we didn't, the idea of adopting a fourth child wasn't even on the horizon. Either way, the whole thought process or logic here was, I don't want to take out another term policy. So if I'm going to do this, I'm going all in right now. So I've got the original $250,000 term policy, then I've got the $500,000. So at that point in time, I decided to take out a third policy, this time for $1.5 million. So I've got 1.5 million, 500,000, and then the 250. So total life insurance coverage was $2.25 million. Now, roughly, I think annually, I was paying about $2,200 for all three policies combined. And at that point in time, I just thought, man, I'm good. Like, I don't need any more. I will never take out another term policy. I'm set. What I didn't anticipate was eventually having life insurance products, life insurance offerings on my blog. And when we started offering life insurance products, we had one of those online quoters where you could get a free life insurance quote in a matter of minutes. So when that happened, I thought, you know what, I'm curious. It's been a few years now since I've taken out my last $1.5 million life insurance policy. I'm still in good health. I'm working out, eating well. How much would it cost if I were to upgrade my policy? Could I save some money? So I spent a few minutes just inputting the information on my own website. And then I learned that as long as I got approved for Preferred Plus, which basically means that you're in good health, you don't have any pre-existing conditions, you're within the height and weight limits, I could get a $2.5 million policy, so get $250,000 more coverage, and also save about $400 per year. And when I saw those numbers, I thought, well, why wouldn't I? Like, why wouldn't I look into seeing if I could save $400 a year and get an additional $250,000 of coverage? Now, if you are in this situation where you already have a life insurance policy, the one thing I didn't mention with the other three policies that I had, I never planned on canceling any of those. But in this case here, I've got the three policies that are totaling $2.25 million, and I'm trying to take out one policy, so consolidate into one policy for more coverage. What you don't want to do is cancel the other policies or stop paying on the other policies until you get approved for the new policy. And that's what I did. So I went through the medical exam, take some blood, got pee in a cup.
Let's pee in a cup.
All that fun stuff. End up getting approved for that Preferred Plus rating. And sure enough, I was able to get a $2.5 million. And currently I'm paying $1,790 per year for that policy. So how did I determine that $2.5 million of life insurance was exactly what was right and needed for my family? Now, there are several different ways that you can calculate your life insurance needs. You could take up all of your outstanding debt, and that could be the amount of life insurance coverage that you want. You could take your annual salary, how much you're making right now, and multiply it by 7, 8, 9, or 10. And whatever that number is, like, that could be your life insurance coverage, which is not a bad way of calculating your life insurance coverage, because you hope that as you continue to work, you're going to get more raises, get promoted, and your income will go up. So you might want to adjust your life insurance coverage. Now, in my case, for me, it was just determining, like, how much would my wife need to continue to live without having to work? At the time, she had stopped working. We had the 3 boys. Now we have, our daughter. And I didn't want her to have to go back to work, and I wanted her to be able to stay at home, but still pay for the bills, help out with college, so on and so forth. So how I calculated this was taking $2.5 million times 4% is going to yield a $100,000 per year income. So the thought was she could take that $2.5 million, invest that, and make 4% so that she could just have a six-figure salary ongoing. And that was my thought process. Now, could she have used that money to pay off some of the debt? Absolutely. But the idea was that could be her income. Now, the other factors here that, and this is where it could be different for you, is that I have other assets. So we had different businesses, we had income coming in, we had other assets that she could sell that could get her several more $1 million. So this wasn't the only thing that she had to rely on to take care of herself and our kids going forward. Crazy thing is, whenever I come across married individuals that don't have life insurance, and one of the biggest excuses or rationale why they don't is that they don't have time or it costs too much. And let's address the time factor. I went the old school way of filling out an online application. I had to have like a traveling nurse come to my house to do the blood and urine. That took all of like 30 minutes. They took all the results, sent them off, and I just waited until they got back to me to let me know that I was approved, and then I sent them a check. Like, that's how much time it took. Nowadays, there are tons of no exam life insurance policies where all you have to do is go online, answer a few questions, and you can get approved in a matter of minutes. Like, that's how simple and easy it is. So the fact that you don't have time, no, like, that's not a good enough excuse. Actually, that's a sad excuse. As far as the cost, if a 30-year-old in good health takes out a 30-year term policy for $250,000, you can expect to pay about $194 per year, or $16 per month. That's all it's going to cost you. $16 per month. That's about 3 value meals at McDonald's. That's the price of a movie and maybe some popcorn. I mean, that is nothing. And if you have a spouse, if you have kids and you don't have any life insurance, just answer this simple question. Like, is your family worth $16 per month? And if the answer is no, then I hope that your spouse and kids aren't in the same room with you, because they better be worth $16 per month. If that same 30-year-old took out a $1 million 30-year term policy, they would expect to pay about $540 per year, or $45 per month. So once again, like, you can get a ton of coverage for next to nothing, especially of all the different payments, all the different things that chances are you're wasting your money on. Make sure that your family is a priority. You'll see a lot of different people debate on whether you should get term life insurance or whole life insurance. So the one thing with term life is when you take out a 30-year term policy, the way that you cancel that policy is that you just stop paying on it. You don't have to call them and cancel it. It's called a unilateral contract. So once you stop paying, the policy voids itself. Now, you've been paying on the policy for, say, 20 years, or if you hold it till term, 30 years, you don't have any cash value built up. So it is a sunk cost. But the whole point is that term is cheaper, and anything that's left over, you can invest into your Roth IRAs, you can invest into the stock market, you can invest into yourself, you can invest into your personal equity fund. You can check out the other video where I talk about different ways that you can make $1,000 a month and where you can invest that money. I give you 8 different strategies. Be sure to check out that video. Now you compare that to whole life, and that's exactly how it sounds. A whole life insurance policy will last you your whole life, and it also will accrue cash value. Now, with the cash value, it's going to take time for that to accrue. It's just like investing into your 401k or into the market. You got time before compounding interest starts taking into effect. Not only that, if you do cash it out, there is no cash value to cash out for several years. And you also have to pay some sort of surrender. You have to pay taxes to get that out. But really, the biggest issue between term versus whole life is the cost. When I started comparing how much a term life policy would cost me, I talked about I have $2.5 million that I pay $1,790 per year For me to get $250,000 of coverage, it was gonna cost me like over $1,000. I think it was almost like $1,100, $1,200 a year to have $250,000 of whole life coverage. And like, that's just a lot of money, like where I could put it somewhere else and invest it, and I just felt like make more than what the whole life insurance policy was going to pay. So in comparison, that 30-year-old that we talked about earlier, taking out a 30-year term policy for $250,000 of coverage, it's going to cost them $16 per month or $194 per year. If that same person was taking out a 30-year whole life policy, it would cost them about $2,150 per year or $180 per month. Like $16 per month versus $180 per month. So for me, it's simple math. I'm going to take that $16, put that into my term life policy. I now have $164 left over per month that now I can invest into something that's going to make me a lot of money that I can have access to, have control over how it's invested instead of relying on the insurance company to take care of that for me. Like for me, that's a no-brainer. And I can't tell you the peace of mind that I have, that my wife has, knowing that we have this big life insurance policy in case something happens to me. You know, my grandfather, my dad's dad passed away when he was in his early 60s. I lost my father when he was in his 60s. And, you know, high blood pressure, heart disease, that runs in my family. That's why I'm adamant about working out, eating healthy. But, you know, you could do all those things. It doesn't mean that it's going to protect you and I'm going to live until I'm 90. So having something that's going to cover me, now I think I took out my policy when I was around 34 years old. So I've got a 30-year term policy that's going to last me until I'm in my mid 60s, which is actually older than my grandfather was when he passed away. And that is, I know it's kind of morbid, but you know, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die, and I've got a big chunk that's going to cover me and my family until then. And I feel good about that. My wife feels good about that. And I hope you can feel good about that too. So are you married? Do you have a spouse or a loved one that's dependent on you in case something happens to you? And let's just get down to it. Do you got life insurance? Have you actually taken the 3 minutes that it takes to go online? You can go on my site, get a quote like that, and yeah, you can find out how much life insurance is going to cost you. Now, I'm not expecting you to take out a $2.5 million policy today, but what I am expecting to do, if you've got somebody that's depending on you and your income, that you better take action, get the information, find out how much it's going to cost you, and then get your butt covered. All right, y'all, this is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and you better get your butt covered with some life insurance